This is the John Hallett podcast powered by ClearSky Training. If you're training with us in Castle Rock, Colorado, this is the thinking behind what we do at Rocky Mountain Self-Defense and Fitness. All right, today we're talking about what parents should know about kids' self-defense. And it's super important. There's a lot of misconceptions of what self-defense is, what martial arts is, what's the best one for my kid. You know, most people go into it going, you know, I want my kid to, they're going to learn punches, kicking, you know, can they break through, free from a grab, you know, being able to fight back if a bully, you know, punches them.
Understand weight.
Yep. Weight. Well, I doubt parents are understanding weight in a fight, but that's a whole nother discussion.
Oh, I thought we were talking about the kids. Hey, did you know I got most of my information about martial arts when I was a kid from movies?
Yeah. That's where
like all of it.
That's where most people get so much of their misconceptions, you know, wax on, wax off from the kids in the 80s and the Karate Kid.
Love that movie.
You know, but for kids, especially younger kids, real self-defense starts long before the physical techniques. You know, the goal isn't to create little fighters. The goal is to create aware, confident kids who know how to make good decisions. That's huge.
Right. I could barely make good decisions on what to eat when I was a kid, let alone understanding what body language is like, not letting somebody get too close, right? Just things that if I had just a little bit of training on would have made all the difference. Yeah.
It starts with those boundary settings, you know, most, you know, especially the dads like, oh, my little kid's going to be this little fighter. And they're little kids, you know, you got to teach them so much, which we'll get into here, but it's boundary setting. It's having a kid that's confident and knows how to stand up for themselves.
So what should kids actually learn in self-defense training then? Like, what's the thing that we should be at least introducing them so parents can understand it better?
You know, kids should first learn awareness. That's huge. Confidence and boundary setting. You know, the physical defense is only one part of real self-protection. You know, that's the last line, you know, just that awareness of, you know, a bully and how to avoid them. But that's, you know, easier said than done in a setting like, you know, your local playground, you know, at school. It's that confidence that we teach kids that is just so big. That's the biggest thing. It's like, even look at our three, you know, our little pre-K and kindergarten class. Stay away from me. I don't want to fight. They're learning like to keep somebody away. Right.
And that's super valuable when those things can happen, you know, and kids learn it quick. And I really appreciate parents that take the time to do that and send them to us so they can start thinking about that stuff, you know?
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
It's like if you're here in Castle Rock, check out our website. This is good, I think, for any parent. You know, our focus is our gym here in Castle Rock, but this is good advice no matter where you're at and looking for a local gym. You know, because kids today, you know, what are they facing? You know, it's bullying. It's social pressure, you know, boundary violations, you know, people trying to manipulate them, whether it's an adult or another kid. You know, uncomfortable situations with peers or adults. You know, the physical violence is rare in a lot, you know, compared to these type of things, especially just the bullying, the intimidation that comes with that is huge.
I'm dealing with.
You know, so training, if it's only punching and kicking, it's missing that big picture. That's what I constantly say about sport, competition, martial arts of any type. They're great. We want to borrow from them in Krav Maga. That's what it's founded on. When you're not talking about boundary setting and confidence and de-escalation, and when everything's a fight, everything's a fight. If how you train, if you're like, you go to class and like, okay, every time in a situation, it's a fight. It's not a de-escalation. It's not not fighting. We see that even with our adults. Like, your job is to escape. Why didn't you escape? But they try to win. It's very hard, even in a gym like ours that focuses on it, because people have to be reminded you're trying to escape. Instead of win the fight, it's escaping is winning.
Go home safe is really hard to teach as a concept because the ego gets in the way, but it's so important. And we do that all the time. I mean, you make kids run de-escalation all the time.
Yeah,
And
just from our little guys, they're learning so much.
Yeah, and even the teenagers, and giving them just little bits of scenarios that they can deal with. We show it to them in chunks, so it's a nice drip of learning how to deal with that stuff, and I love it.
Yeah,
I love teaching it. So, at what age should kids start self-defense training? Then, like, is there too young? Is there too?
I mean, sometimes I just go the simple answer is like if they're in diapers, they're not ready for a self-defense class.
Yeah, okay.
Kids can begin learning awareness, confidence, and basic safety skills at a very young age.
Sure.
When training is structured and age appropriate, right? Like it's got to be structured for their age group. Yeah. And that's where a lot of instructors aren't good. They can be a phenomenal adult instructor, but they are just not geared for kids. It's a totally different animal. We at RMSDF, we like to start kids at 3 to 3.5 is where we see the best kids coming in. The closer they get to 4, it's a little bit better, but we have a really good success rate with the kids at 3.5, and it's a fun class. It's a short class. It's 30 minutes. It's not anything long for those little guys, and it's fun to be around them. We really appreciate watching the growth in these kids too. It's so amazing to watch, man. Yeah, the kids are fun. It. We're teaching them awareness, confidence in their voice. All like don't sound like a little mouse. Right. That boundary setting, decision making, emotional control, which is huge, especially with those young boys, of when to use self-defense. They constantly get that question wrong in class when they're coming in, and learning when and how to use their self-defense, when they when it's justified to use their punches or kicks, knowing when to get help. Like that's a huge one. We're just doing that in the kids class the other day. Yes. I mean, unless you're training this, we like to have the kids like draw attention. Like this guy's trying to fight me. I don't want to fight. Like let everybody know around like, hey, go find the teacher. Like this guy's trying to fight me. I don't want to fight him. Right. And we're teaching them to be confident there and ready to stay in their ground. But all those things are huge. I mean, we, see that all the time, even our adults. We had somebody the other day that were like, hey, shouldn't you have been on the radio and calling for help in that situation? Yes, I should have been calling for help in that situation. Oh, but everything going on, it's easier said than done, all of these skills, and it's a lot. So what if there's that parent out there that worries that teaching kids self-defense makes them more aggressive? So that's the question: does teaching kids self-defense make them more aggressive? No. When taught properly, self-defense training actually reduces aggression by teaching discipline, control, and when not to fight. We like the the little kids are learning that in an age appropriate manner. Like, hey, you're a booger face, and can you punch that guy? Or even we'll have them mock it up on me so it's safer, and I'm down on the ground with at their height and going, you're a booger face. Oh, and like, and they front kick you in the groin. Like, okay. No, that was wrong. That was, that guy is mean. That's we can get into a bullying situation. Or somebody constantly bullying you, but right there, you shouldn't be punching or kicking a kid. No, it's great to show them. It's confidence. It's so much better than technique. If you can that's the number one thing I always say is confidence. Bullies often look for hesitation, lack of confidence. The isolated kid. Confident kids who make eye contact, use their voice, and set boundaries are often, they're often avoid becoming targets. Like nothing's a guarantee in life, but that kid that's shy, lacking confidence, and has that weak personality, that's the person, whether it's an adult or a kid, that's the one that's going to be the easy target. That's what predators look for is the easy target. I say predators are most of the time for the weakest one, right? I mean, and if you're putting off those vibes, they almost always go for it. Yeah. So we're here to make kids stronger, smarter,
aware and like just the confidence to be able to deal with it.
Yeah. So parents, you should be looking for a program that teaches situational awareness. That is giant. That's, something I never got in any of my traditional martial art kind of things. Verbal boundary setting, escaping dangerous situations, age appropriate physical defense, and context is often there. I mean, that's like a little side note. Like sometimes we're teaching kids and it's a 360 and, somebody's swinging at you and you'll sometimes get that elementary school age go, what if they have a knife? And I'm like, okay, you've seen a movie. Hey, this is, this is built on that. Everything in our kids program on RMSDF builds them into adult skills. And we just have to change the context with those kids. One of my guys years and years ago, law enforcement guy was like, hey, you were teaching my kid gun from behind without teaching my kid gun from behind. I'm like, yes, everything the kids are they're learning it in a context appropriate for their age. Another one, back to the list, emotional regulation, that is giant, respect and discipline. Training should be structured, progressive, not chaotic, and not intimidating.
Huge one right there.
It shouldn't be, you're going to class and you're scared or just things are chaotic and, hey, this is real self-defense. I mean, it's their kids. You got to teach them in that.
Right. You can't go full master Ron, whatever on them. I mean, they're kids. They're here to learn stuff that's for kids, but boy, do we turn them into, I've had the pleasure of watching some kids go into the teenage class with you now and like seeing that progression from the kids skills to actually the teenage skills, which is just the context away from adult was an eye opener, especially in how you teach. So I think it's huge.
The kids are great. But the parents matter a ton in this whole progression. We can't replace a parent. We can only, like I always say, I'm here to back you up in things that you're doing as a parent, but parents need to, reinforce, doing a little bit of practice at home. What did you learn tonight? Show me that move, like showing your parents the move and like trying to teach your parents the steps of the move is really good for them.
Very
Even
valuable,
if they're getting it wrong, it's good. Or the parent might be watching class and getting it wrong. So you just like let the kid try and things will get sorted out. Family talks about safety openly, and that's, I think, a huge, because sometimes, we want to protect our kids, but we can't shelter them. Like making it a thing of like what to do is really huge with kids. I think sometimes they're overly sheltered and that's a mistake. And then something happens and whoa, you're the perpetual deer in the headlights. Self-defense is a partnership between the instructor and the family. They've got to enforce doing some practice, and it's not always going to be fun. Like you're going to class, like there's a whole bunch of stuff on our parents portal on our member website. So there's just a ton of help there. Maybe we'll throw this in there. It's not anything too crazy if you're out there. We'll throw that in the show notes somewhere. So parents, kids don't need to be perfect. No. They need to be prepared. They don't need to be the best fighter, right, in the world. They just need to be prepared kids. The goal of kids self-defense training isn't to create fighters. It's to help children grow into confident decision makers.
Huge.
If you want to go deeper on real-world self-defense, decision-making under stress, and responsible firearms training, everything we teach lives at ClearSky.training. ClearSky is where we break down the thinking behind self-defense, awareness, avoidance, judgment, legality, and decisive action when violence can't be avoided. If you're in Castle Rock, Colorado, and want hands-on training, that philosophy is put into practice at Rocky Mountain Self-Defense and Fitness. Thanks for listening to the John Hallett podcast. Train more, suck less.